Central Pitch Side, brought to you by Edgechem, in Financial Corporation, Connect Services, Texaco, Jamaica Stock Exchange, and Sunshine Snacks.
Jamaica, make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out, don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30.
Fan Central Pitch Side, brought to you by Edgechem, in Financial Corporation, Connect Services, Texaco, Jamaica Stock Exchange, and Sunshine Snacks.
No more fear of missing out. CVM TV News is on YouTube. Get up-to-date news, sports, and business content at CVM TV News anytime, anywhere. Subscribe now to CVM TV News to see it happen.
A controversial settlement between Tradewinds Citrus Limited and NEPA has raised concerns and triggered resignations. The government has expressed dissatisfaction with how NEPA has handled the matter, while environmental and community groups have also registered their displeasure. We'll break down the details of the Rio Cobre oil spill case, the public outcry, and what it means for environmental accountability in Jamaica. You're watching Lead Story. Stay with us. The December 2023 oil spill in the Rio Cobre has stirred a storm of controversy following a recent settlement between Tradewinds Citrus Limited and the National Environment and Planning Agency, NEPA. Now, under the terms of the settlement, NEPA dropped all charges against TWCL after the company agreed to cover the cleanup and restoration costs. However, no additional fines or penalties were imposed. While NEPA defended the agreement, this decision has sparked widespread criticisms from environmental groups and the public. Joining me to discuss the matter is Dr. Teresa Rodriguez Moody, CEO of the Jamaica Environment Trust. And also joining me a little later is Gavin Goff. He's an environmental attorney. But before that, here's a package from our producer.
Within the ebbs and flows of the Rio Cobre is a story of service and tragedy. The river serves the parish of St. Catherine as its major watershed, which houses major towns such as Portmore, Old Harbour, and Spanish Town. The river is also the center of the economic activity in the surrounding communities. The tragic stories of frequent accidents and mysticism surrounding the river is accompanied by stories of betrayal of the health of the river by those it serves, with frequent incidents of pollution. It's not just the river that suffers. It's also the health and well-being and economic viability of the surrounding communities. While residents of adjoining communities may pollute the river, the scale of mass destruction is often caused by the actors of mass industry. It's hard to keep up with the sporadically running series of keeping up with the spills of the Rio Cobre. Today saw some movement in the latest plot. Well, NEPA recently announced that it has dropped the criminal charges for an oil spill that occurred in Bogwalk, a community washed by the river on the property owned and operated by Tradewinds Citrus, a company known for brands such as True Juice. NEPA dropped the charges, stating that while the oil spill might have seeped into the river, there was no damage great enough to cause a fish kill, which they described as a large-scale mortality event of fish that occur due to various factors such as wastewater pollution, hypoxic conditions, nutrient enrichment, and the introduction of pathogens. NEPA said the company also paid for the cleanup of the spill. But why are environmentalists upset about this decision? Especially when the financial penalty for the charges could have amounted to $100,000 under the Wildlife Protection Act of 1945. Well, for one, they are upset that the settlement agreement was said to be confidential, and also the idea that the perception could be furthered that environmental crimes are not to be treated with the gravity of consideration as necessary. The chairman of NEPA has resigned, and the government followed with a statement making it clear that there wasn't an abundance of confidence in how NEPA's leadership handled the matter. But how do we go forward? Will the future of Rio Cobre continue to be vulnerable to fish kills, oil spills, and outrage drills? Or will we find a more comprehensive way to protect major environmental sanctuaries like the Rio Cobre and others across Jamaica? We discuss on Lead Story. Courtney Lewis for Lead Story.
Stay with us, you're watching Lead Story. More conversation after this.
Truth is, HIV affects everyone. Truth is, avoiding care leads to a weaker immune system. That means you could get really sick. The truth is, the hardest pill to swallow isn't the medication. It's the problems that follow when you don't take them. Let's get through this together. Remain in care. You can live life to the fullest with HIV. And that's the truth. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Let's take a trip to the future. Join the JPS Foundation at the Climate Action Conference and Expo on November 30 at the Chinese Benevolent Association. Hosted by CJ Sparks and Paula Ann Porter-Jones. Explore Sustainability City, meet our Power Up Energy Club Innovation Challenge finalists, and check out career options at the Career Corner. Test drive electric cars and dive into cutting-edge tech. Plus, our immersive teaching tunnel will show you how you can take action for a sustainable future. Follow us on IG and Facebook at JPS Foundation to learn more.
Welcome back, you're watching Lead Story, and we're talking the controversial settlement between TWCL and, well, NEPA. As you mentioned earlier, we're joined by Gavin Goff, he's an environment attorney, and Dr. Teresa Rodriguez Moody, she's CEO of the Jamaica Environment Trust. Good evening to you both. Dr. Moody?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. You were very low. Could you repeat the question? Sorry.
Any better? I was welcoming you to the show. You're hearing me any better now?
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Now, I feel like we've had this conversation before, haven't we? Last year, following the fish kills, we had you on the show, and we've had these conversations at length. Before we dive into the substantives, did you remember your reaction to the news back in December?
It was, again, I can't remember because there have been so many of these incidents. It just feels so overwhelming to be constantly hearing about these issues. And then when we talk about seeking justice, and we hear the promises that have been made time after time, and then to see the outcome. And actually to learn that maybe had it not been for Dr. Goff and representatives of Friends of Rio Cobre not being in the courtroom, we may not have heard anything about this deal.
Ms. Moody, the details of the settlement are now public. Yes? What do you make of it? And you said before that it sets a bad precedent, that it was under an NDA before, but now that the details are public, do you still maintain that the details therein set a bad precedent for environmental justice cases going forward?
Well, when we look at the statement by Minister Samuda and this comment that has been, this statement about the fact that NDAs have been removed, you kind of want to ask the question, how many more of these deals have been made and the public is not aware? The fact is, one of the things that I want to really highlight for your listeners is that the law does not only say that it's an issue if there's a fish kill. The Wildlife Protection Act also says that, to quote, notwithstanding anything to the contrary, every person who causes or knowingly permits to flow or puts or knowing whether directly or indirectly into any harbor, river or stream, canal, lagoon or estuary containing fish, any trade effluent or industrial waste or sewage or any noxious or polluting matter shall be guilty of an offense. So it means that it doesn't have to result in a fish kill. The fact that you have put either by accident or knowingly put a noxious substance into a river, it is an offense. And this, I think, is a point that has been missed.
Mr. Goff, a part of the thing that caused much of the public outrage is the secrecy that shrouded a lot of this initially. Are confidentiality clause typical in agreements like this?
No, not in criminal contexts or criminal courts. No, in civil matters, which are between private individuals, then yes, the court actually encourages mediation to avoid, wasting of the court's time and resources and so forth. But in a criminal context, it's a different kind of consideration, because it's not certainly a criminal public prosecution like this. It's not a private matter. It's settled by two private individuals, two parties against each other. But the way this is worded, the agreement, you would think that it's a private personal arrangement being concluded between best friends, So in a criminal matter, because the criminal matters are brought for and on behalf of the public, then the public interest has to be at the center of those kind of considerations as to what are the bases for withdrawing criminal charges, especially where this is a very public matter, wide public interest, and a lot of impact on hundreds of thousands of individuals. So this is very strange, very unusual, not the norm at all.
Dr. Goff, is this the first time NEPA has reached a settlement of this kind? And I ask the same question to you, Dr. Rodriguez.
We are being made aware of it.
We don't know. We don't know.
Yes, but what I see in Minister Samuda's statement that has been released would suggest there's a history of usage of non-disclosure agreements to prevent the public knowing what is the basis of charges being withdrawn against environmental polluters. That's a very important and serious cause for concern, because how again can you compromise criminal matters, right? And this is the kind of template being used. You promise not to do any further prosecutions at all, right? You accept that they are great environmental stewards and best practices that they're going to maintain. So you withdraw the criminal law and the threat of the criminal law from them for the future. How can that be right?
Dr. Modi, one of the provisions of the settlement is that TWCL had to pay for cleanup and recovery. Was that a sufficient sanction, you'd say?
I mean, no, I think that should have just been something that they were required to do. How is that a penalty, really and truly? How is that a penalty? You want it to be a deterrent also. That's why you take them to court. You want them to understand the seriousness of polluting and causing any kind of devastation to our natural resources. Otherwise, you're just kind of you're sending a message that you just kind of, you can just, I dirty up the place, I'll clean it up, and then, just slap on the wrist and we move on with life. That's okay.
Dr. Modi,
I don't think it's enough.
I'm going to ask you something you're all too familiar with. I've asked you this before, because NEPA was at pains to point out that the cleanup cost surpassed what was under law required to be the fine, $100,000. Now, I've asked you before, and I have to ask you again, are these penalties sufficient, especially for larger corporations?
No, we know they're not sufficient, and we have been promised. I mean, this is an announcement that was made I think earlier this by the Prime Minister that said that we are going to be increasing the fines. And we've been asking for that question. We've been asking the question of when. I think the statement that Minister Samuda, in his statement, it says that they're working on it. I don't know. We've been hearing that for a while.
I guess we're going to see what that means, right, Doc? We'll talk more about that after this quick break. You're watching Lead Story on CVM. Stay with us.
No more fear of missing out. CVM TV News is on YouTube. Get up-to-date news, sports, and business content at CVM TV News anytime, anywhere. Subscribe now to CVM TV News to see it happen.
Truth is, HIV affects everyone. Truth is, avoiding care leads to a weaker immune system. That means you could get really sick. The truth is, the hardest pill to swallow isn't the medication. It's the problems that follow when you don't take them. Let's get through this together. Remain in care. You can live life to the fullest with HIV. And that's the truth. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Welcome back. You're watching Lead Story, and we're talking a recent settlement between TWCL and NEPA following an oil spill in December. We're joined by Dr. Teresa Rodriguez-Moody and environmental attorney. His name is Dr. Goff. Now, Sir Goff, from a legislative perspective, the matter is now outside the remit of the criminal jurisdiction. What remedies exist in the civil jurisdiction, if any, for members of the community affected by this and some of the other spills in the region?
So the first thing I would say is that I don't think the criminal matter is at an end. You know, we heard from the DPP earlier today that, she is willing to look into appealing. From our perspective, we think that what was done in the court on Wednesday is not irreversible. And so we definitely want to see a criminal prosecution remounted against True Jokes. We want to see this mediation agreement thrown in the rubbish heap of history. And we want to know that the criminal laws of the country will be enforced, irrespective of who are the offenders. But the civil matter, definitely we reserve the right to pursue constitutional and civil claims in court for compensation. But the issue of public trust and public governance, I think, is critical. And so we don't want the criminal matter to be dropped at all. We're going to the DPP to intervene in a correct way to rectify this unfortunate tragedy.
Now, Dr. Moody, the minister said earlier today that he plans to strengthen environmental protections. Do you have any advice to him as to what those are supposed to look like?
Well, we've been making several recommendations over the years. I think that, the area of enforcement and monitoring and enforcement has been a challenge that we've seen, that it needs improvement. We have submitted some recommendations to the National Environment and Planning Agency. And we made our recommendations with respect to quite a few of the actions. It's quite discretionary. But with respect to Rio Cobre specifically, one of the things that we've been recommending is the use of technology. NEPA recently indicated via the media that they would be considering, or they're exploring this in terms of better monitoring of the river, because one of the challenges that we've Seeing is that they have issues with the number of enforcement officers to be able to get out there and collect the data that they need in a timely manner. So we think that that's necessary. We also saw, and we congratulated NEPA on the fact that they were looking into using working with the community to strengthen a citizen science, a monitoring program, a reporting mechanism that would get information across faster to NEPA. But this was a one-off training, and we've written and asked, what does this look like? Are you providing them with equipment? The fact is, this is really the role of the organization, and yes, it can be supported by the citizens, and the citizens have been very active in monitoring the river, but unfortunately, they've also been dismissed on several occasions when they have brought these issues of pollution to NEPA, and they've been dismissed, and they've been told that this is not true. This is old news, or they saw people fishing, swimming in the river, so there could not have been a pollutant. And we've done our ATI request and asked for the monitoring results, only to know that yes, they have acknowledged in a report that it was polluted, but then again, they've told the public that we don't believe you. So we need to see a complete change in how we deal with collecting information, the proactive dissemination of environmental information to those people, to the public that uses the environment. And we need to take environmental matters, environmental crime seriously.
Well, Dr.
It's very important.
Dr. Moody, why aren't we? Why aren't we taking it seriously? Like I said, we aren't strangers to this conversation, and your advocacy is well known. So what are the deficiencies? Where are the gaps? Why do we keep having this conversation?
Part of the gap is in the law, the weaknesses of the law. But I think it has a lot to do with just the will. I still think that there is interference. We need to understand at all levels the importance of a healthy environment. But the fact is, when we talk about those fines, it's probably easier to pollute, to cause environmental harm, and
They're
then
negligible.
get a slap on the wrist.
$100,000 for a company
Exactly.
earning billions in revenue. It's negligible.
You can write it into your budget.
Yeah.
And that's the sad part about it. And fines is just a part of it, but I think fines are an important part of it, right? But people need to understand that if they know that they can have these kind of negotiations going forward, then we also know that it's not going to get any better.
Have we tested what the right to a healthy environment looks like in the courts? And do you think that any of these cases can be challenged under that particular right, I should ask?
Yeah, so the right to a healthy environment also, apart from the fact that it means a right to clean air, safe water, a safe climate, and healthy food and so forth, it has these 6 things under it. It also means it has these procedural elements, right? So it speaks to access to justice, public participation, and access to information. And so we do need to take these issues further, but access to justice this whole process, as you can imagine, is expensive. It's just something that it's expensive, and it's time consuming, and you also it's not just about the time, you actually need the information. And even with respect to the Rio Cobre itself, if you try to collect the information, the kind of methods that you have to go about to get information using the Access to Information Act, you have to say, please, can I have access to a report, a study, a document? You have to call it all kinds of different names, because if you call it the wrong thing, you will not get the information. So we have a right to a healthy environment, and yes, it's something that we need to be testing in court. And it is something that we have to be exploring more seriously.
Dr. Moody, very simply, in your view, is NEPA fulfilling its mandate?
No. if NEPA were fulfilling its mandate, it would not be solely focused on, we wouldn't see deals like this. We wouldn't see secret deals like this. If NEPA were fulfilling its mandate, we would see where environment is, the protection of environment is the center of all decisions. And then everything else is around that. But I find that everything else, planning, development, that takes center place. And then we see how we can mitigate. That's really not what we should be focusing on. It's not to say that we don't allow for development. We need to just have a completely different approach to this.
Thank you so much. We've been talking a recent controversial settlement between TWCL and NEPA following an oil spill in the Rio Cobre in December. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. This has been Lead Story. Corinne is standing by with the news.
What's your sign? Who dreamers? Don't care what other people say. We're doing this in our way. We come alive. We come alive. We come alive. We're doing this in our way. We come alive.
Crazy when your lips touch mine. Let's explore our love. We'll leave the world behind. Can you feel me
It's schoolboy football, September 7 to December 14 on CVM TV. It's schoolboy football, brought to you by Edgechem, AIM Financial Corporation, Texaco, Connect Services, Jamaica Stock Exchange, and Sunshine Snacks.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
I love waking up every day in this country. This is where I was born and raised. I have such a passion for my country, and for me, this is home. In Jamaica, lots of people, they look at just like beach, sea, sand, but our mountains are something to behold. It's majestic up there, and it's a different type of peace. It's a different type of lifestyle completely. I could mention many different places.
Another junction in life.
I have two left foot then, sir.
Yeah, yeah, man. See the buckle of the Nigeria now.
This is my show, and you will not drop word from me.
They even know them things. No. TJ, I can't say that no. You're going to mash up some house.
You know, say Baba was really there ready to make your cut.
So, where you cut before? The cut, okay.
Now I'm where I want to be.
The Cut is brought to you by Flow.
Small business owners and independent contractors get affordable insurance with Sagicor Pro Shield. The time by Sagicor Life is
7 o'clock.
Tonight in CVM News at 7, local company avoids steep penalties in Rio Cobre oil spill.
3 arrested in $17 billion heart trust fraud, and the government launches $870 million National Farm Road program. Also, our Friday feature traditional flavors with Curlin Brown. While in sports, our Jamaica Premier League Match Week 12 preview.
From Kingston, Jamaica, this is CVM News at 7 for Friday, November 29, 2024. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Curlin Brown. Well, the controversial settlement between Tradewinds Citrus Limited and the National Environment and Planning Agency, NEPA, has now sparked public outcry. The December 2023 oil spill into the Rio Cobre, which caused widespread concern, led to a legal agreement raising questions about environmental accountability. Ramon Gordon continues with the latest on how the situation unfolded.
Tradewinds and Citrus Limited has avoided potentially significant legal and financial consequences for the December 2023 oil spill into the Rio Cobre after the National Environment and Planning Agency NEPA agreed to drop all charges in a controversial settlement. The agreement, signed in November 2024, came after mediation between NEPA's parent body, the Natural Resources Conservation Authority (NRCA), and Tradewinds Citrus. Here's a breakdown. No fines beyond cleanup costs. Under current laws, fines for environmental breaches are capped at $100,000. NEPA stated that TWCL covered all cleanup and restoration costs, which exceeded the legal fine. No additional penalties or compensation were imposed. 2. Charges were dropped. The NRCA agreed to withdraw the criminal charges filed in December 2023, releasing TWCL from all future liabilities relating to the oil spill. Corporate commitment to improvement. TWCL pledged to adopt best environmental practices and work with NEPA and community groups to protect the Rio Cobre. The settlement initially included a strict confidentiality clause that prevented public disclosure of its terms. The clause was waived after Minister Matthew Samuda intervened, following public and judicial criticism. NEPA has defended the agreement, arguing that the oil spill had minimal environmental impact and did not cause a fish kill. Environmental groups, including the Jamaica Environment Trust, have condemned the settlement, calling it a dangerous precedent.
I'm not quite sure in whose interest NEPA is operating in. The Rio Cobre is used by thousands of people, directly and indirectly. It's outrageous that we could be having our environmental regulators make a decision that does not include any kind of consideration for the public. It sends a message that polluters can negotiate their way out of accountability.
Minister Samuda has acknowledged public dissatisfaction with NEPA's handling of the matter. This prompted the resignation of NEPA Board Chairman Weldon Madden. Samuda has also announced plans to strengthen environmental laws. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister has ordered the creation of a river control authority to better protect our rivers. Ramon Gordon for CVM News.
3 men are facing serious charges after their arrests in connection with a major fraud investigation involving millions of dollars at the Heart Trust. The operation, led by the major Organised Crime and Anti-Corruption Agency, MOCA, uncovered a web of suspicious activity tied to the organization's financial operations. Shante McNeil picks up that story.
The major Organised Crime and Anti-Corruption Agency, MOCA, has charged 2 of the 3 persons arrested on Friday in connection with a massive $17 million fraud investigation at the Human Employment and Resources Training Trust, also known as Heart Trust. The operation, led by MOCA, has sent shock waves through the country. The individuals charged have since been identified as Simois Ellis, a former Heart Trust NTA employee of a Gregory Park address, and Kevin Atkins, another former employee of a Salt Spring address in St. James. Ellis was charged with larceny as a servant, possession of criminal property, and conspiracy, whilst Atkins was charged with the offences of receiving stolen property and conspiracy to defraud. MOCA agents reportedly seized a number of electronic devices, including laptops and phones, as well as documents they believe will play a crucial role in unraveling the full extent of the fraud. Head of Communications for MOCA, Major Basil Jarrett, condemned the actions of those involved, calling the scheme disheartening.
Remember too, is that heart falls under the Ministry of Education, and when you take money out of an entity like heart, you're taking money out of the most important activity that we as a people can get engaged in, right? And it's not just at the level that heart operates, but you're stealing from your children, you're stealing from the future. It's a really egregious act when we start to talk about stealing from the Ministry of Education. So it's particularly disheartening.
Major Jarrett also emphasized the importance of vigilance in tackling fraud, urging citizens to report suspicious financial activities.
If you see something that looks like fraud or some other form of financial crime, or any crime, organized crime for that matter, and you're not quite sure, bring it to us and let us make that determination. So if you're in an organization and you're seeing checks flying around and you have questions about the validity of the checks, the payees on the check, if there's something that you believe is unusual, bring it to us. We will make a determination if this warrants an investigation.
Meanwhile, the Education Ministry commended MOCA for bringing the investigation to a head.
The government is very committed to stamping out corruption, and so I'm very happy to hear that after their 6-year investigation, MOCA felt that they were able to pick up some individuals today. And we truly hope that we'll be able to get to the bottom of this situation so that we can send a strong message that anyone who wants to engage in any corruption in any of our entities, that they will be dealt with.
Ellis and Atkins are to appear before the St. James Parish Court on December 4. Shante McNeil, CVM News.
Now, it's a case of wait and see for the Bank of Jamaica, the BOJ, as world eyes the January return of U.S. President Donald Trump and his raft of economic changes. Speaking at a quarterly briefing in Kingston, the central bank's executive notes while much of his policies could impact the local economy, in many instances the fares center around likely worst-case scenarios for which they'll have to plan.
Come January 20, 2025, when U.S. President-elect Donald Trump takes office, Jamaica's central bank, like its people, will be in a wait-and-see mode for the possible raft of changes and how these could likely impact the local economy. On Monday, Bank of Jamaica Governor Richard Biles noted that inflation and core inflation were within range, but notes that external geopolitical tensions and trade factors influencing some of our main trade partners could affect that. Deputy Governor, leading the Research and Economic Programming Division and Financial Stability, Dr. Robert Stennett, shares some amount of planning is taking place, but clarity is needed.
We've started preliminary work, Dashan, but clearly what has been announced to date cannot be seen as declarative policy directions that the government will take. So we are going to wait until we have more clarity about exactly what will be done before we can formalize our thoughts. However, our preliminary view have been informed by discussions that we have seen amongst other technicians in the global space. We're aware that there are plans, as you correctly put it, to implement tariffs on goods coming out of China and other countries.
And as the clarity comes into focus, he notes concerns around myriad topical issues and how these could impact inflation and remittance inflows.
We're aware of a proposal to cut taxes. We're aware of a plan to undertake mass deportation. And finally, there are plans to increase U.S. oil supply. The impact of all of those policies have been assessed by international commentators. And we're aware that GDP estimates, the impact on GDP estimates range anywhere between 1% to 2% on the U.S. economy. When we take those into consideration, we also consider that inflation in the U.S. could rise, and where prices coming out of the U.S. are higher, then those will affect us here in Jamaica.
However, despite these fears and the likely effect on expectations, he reminds Jamaicans that these are only worst-case scenarios.
But to the extent that Jamaican nationals are involved, the diaspora are affected, to the extent that these things happen, then remittance flows could be affected, and maybe other potential foreign exchange flows could be affected. But I just want to hasten to say that these are worst-case thought processes that we're going through. We have to wait until we see exactly what is feasible in the context of the U.S. administration for these things to be done, and then we will be able to more declaratively assess the impact on Jamaica and potentially communicate our thoughts.
He was responding to questions from journalists at a recent BOJ quarterly briefing in Kingston.
Nika Lewis ending that report. Please stay with us for more to come here on CVM News at 7.
Valued at over $400,000 with Digicel. When you gift your loved ones a 7-day plan for just $1,100 in My Digicel, share one more gift, one more moment, one more smile. Digicel, better connected this Christmas.
Let's take a trip to the future. Join the JPS Foundation at the Climate Action Conference and Expo on November 30 at the Chinese Benevolent Association. Hosted by CJ Sparks and Paula Ann Porter-Jones. Explore Sustainability City, meet our Power Up Energy Club Innovation Challenge finalists. And check out career options at the Career Corner. Test drive electric cars and dive into cutting-edge tech. Plus, our immersive teaching tunnel will show you how you can take action for a sustainable future. Follow us on IG and Facebook at JPS Foundation to learn more.
Coach Black Friday is fully reloaded for one day only, Friday, November 29. Shop 30% off all furniture, mattresses, and smart TVs, and 25% off all major appliances. Big savings from 7 a.m. until midnight at select stores. Conditions apply.
And we welcome you back with this update. Following the PNP's victory in the Ainon Town Divisional by-election, the party has called for Maypen's Mayor Joel Williams to resign. At a media briefing at the PNP's headquarters, the party leader concedes it's only fair as the PNP holds the majority vote. Courtney Lewis assesses those claims in this report.
The municipality of Clarendon now faces a political quandary as the People's National Party calls for the mayor and chairman Joel Williams to resign. The call comes after the PNP secured the victory in the Ainon Town by-election, bringing an electoral tie of 11 seats for both the JLP and PNP. The PNP candidate Delroy Dawson beat the JLP's Suzette Barton by a slim 54 votes. In the event a tie at the general local elections, the popular vote determines who should be the mayor.
Our position is that with an equality in the number of councillors at the Maypen Parish Council, Municipal Corporation as they're called now, and the PNP having won the popular vote in the parish, in the February elections, but also even more so with this by-election now, the right and proper and principal thing is for the existing mayor to step down.
Golding says Williams' resignation would allow for fair democratic process and believes it is only fair that the PNP councillors elect a mayor as they maintain the popular vote. But as for the party's next steps, its president is keeping mum.
In terms of what we will do in terms of our legal strategy, I'm not going to disclose that today.
But in terms of democracy, at least one legal mind is chiming in. King's Counsel Lloyd Barnett breaks down the law.
Local government legislation provides
that at the general parish council elections where there's a tie, then it is determined by the party that has the highest number of votes from the electorate. That provision has not been applied to a vacancy during the term.
He mentions the principle has not been applied in this situation, and it would require a purposive interpretation.
But as I say in constitutional matters, one acts on principle, and if the principle as indicated by the provision that it should be determined by the majority of the electorate, then the appropriate thing is for the mayor to resign.
When CVM News reached out to Mayor Williams, all calls went unanswered. Courtney Lewis for CVM News.
And the former mayor of Maypen, Cian Barneswell, is also hoping the Jamaica Labour Party's Joel Williams will resign as mayor as the People's National Party holds the popular vote following the by-election. He says this is not a unique situation and a precedent has been set for the change to take place.
We, from our side, the PNP caucus, anticipates that it will happen on the day of swearing, or after the swearing of Mr. Dawson, Councillor Dawson. We expect that that transition will take place. So we expect that since a precedent has been acknowledged, that no difference should happen here in Clarendon. So we're waiting patiently for that day. I think it's the second Thursday of December, which is the 12th of December. We waited patiently for the transition to happen. And the people of Clarendon is also looking on anxiously and patiently for that transition to happen.
The government has officially launched the 2024-2025 National Farm Road and Rehabilitation Program with a total cost of $870 million. The initiative has already seen the completion of several roads, with additional roads set to undergo rehabilitation. With more, here is Britannia Whittle.
With the state of the nation's roads a continued topic for discussion, the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries is trying to change the narrative for the farmers. The launch of its 2024 to 2025 National Farm Road and Rehabilitation Program was recently held in Cornwall District in St. Elizabeth. Agriculture Minister Floyd Green announced the initiative, revealing that the ambitious $870 million project is already underway.
We have identified 61 farm roads that are to be done under this program. That is, plus we are going to do an additional 20 farm roads that were damaged in Hurricane Beryl and Tropical Storm Raphael. So we will be doing over 80 farm roads under the program this year.
The initiative will see the upgrading and construction of new farm roads in various rural areas, with a focus on roads previously underserved or in dire need of repair. Green said the government is also working closely with engineers from the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA, to ensure that the rehabilitation process is efficient and meets high-quality standards.
We have built up institutional capacity in RADA to ensure that we have a team of engineers that can really monitor the implementation of the road. We have also said it is not just the number of roads that are done. That is all well and good. But if the roads are not done properly, it don't make sense.
Green said the government is also working closely with engineers from the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA, to ensure that the rehabilitation process is efficient and meets high-quality standards. Meanwhile, acting CEO of RADA, Marina Young, urged residents to care for the roads.
So take care of the sections of the road which have been rehabilitated. Please work with your community members not to block with various debris, sometimes construction materials or old tracks, because all of that helps to deteriorate the road faster. So we are very happy to be in your community. We can ride the donkey, we can ride our fancy cars, and we can walk happily.
Britannia Whittle, CVM News.
Residents in sections of St. Thomas are expressing delight after they received 2 bus routes which will make travelling in and around the parish a little easier. Adrian Williams gives us more on the development in the parish.
With a reliable transportation system vital to any country's productivity, the Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC, commissioning of 2 new routes in the parish of St. Thomas is another sign that the once forgotten parish is being positioned to flourish.
We're here today offering the route 701 from Kingston to Yallas. We're offering route 702 from Kingston to Morant Bay. It's JUTC's privilege to serve West St. Thomas in this capacity.
MacDonald says the company is also using the opportunity to endorse their cashless system with benefits for persons who use the smarter card.
Today we are here creating new cards because the residents don't normally use the service. So we are here because with the card it's cheaper. So if you have a card coming to Yallas, you would pay $100. If you don't have a card, you pay $200. Concessionaires, which is student, child, disabled persons and seniors, they would pay $50 with a card or $200 without a card. So it's big for JUTC coming to a different part of the world, a different neck of the world, just to serve the Jamaican public.
My JUTC card, I feel good about it. Bus coming to St. Thomas.
I'm happy because I'm fearless here. I'm very happy about it because sometimes, there's a long wait as an elder.
The turnout for the rollout of new routes in the parish got tremendous support despite the showers. St. Thomas natives are feeling quite positive about the move.
Prime Minister is doing something in the parish of St. Thomas. It's a great job, great initiative. We appreciate it a whole lot. Great job. You notice we are forging the rain to be out here, so you know that, yes. We are glad for it.
I feel good. I never knew I would live to see this day when JUTC out St. Thomas. So I'm giving thanks.
Adrian Williams reporting for CVM News.
And we'll continue in a moment.
You can make a child in care's dream come true. Create lasting memories.
We invite you to open your hearts and homes this holiday season to a child in care. Take a child home this holiday.
Submit your applications early ahead of the November 29th deadline.
Together, we can make this holiday season brighter for children in care. Join us in making dreams come true.
Take a child home for the holiday program. Apply now at www.childprotection.gov.jm or visit any of our parish offices.
Welcome back. The National Works Agency has completed its work on the Negril West End seawall. The multi-million-dollar rehabilitation could now lead to a steady flow of tourists and easy commute. Courtney Lewis tells us more.
Severe coastal erosion by major weather events left the bustling West End area of Negril in pieces, with eroded sidewalks and roadways. But the National Works Agency, NWA, has completed its long-awaited restoration project, bringing a new look and life to the coastal infrastructure.
We have completed a major undertaking along this stretch of the roadway in terms of a rock revetment project, which is aimed at reducing the wave action on the roadway. So we completed significant rock revetment works. We have also constructed a retaining wall. And also to improve pedestrian safety, we have reconstructed sections of the sidewalk in the area.
The NWA says damage was extensive, so rock revetment was a priority.
This section of the roadway along the west end was reduced to single-lane access due to successive flood events and also due to coastal action, which undermined the retaining wall as well as the roadway, reducing it to single-lane access.
The project, valued at $88 million, should see a reduction in breakaways, for which vendors are grateful.
Now, the compliment whoever was in charge, or whoever implemented it to be done, it is very nice and we appreciate it very much.
The seawall just came and make everything here looks gorgeous.
Courtney Lewis for CVM News.
Thanks so much for staying with us. Now, even people who don't imbibe get a whiff of a certain overproof liquid processed from sugarcane at least once a year. The subtle yet deliberate disguise in drinks, for example, carry no guilt. However, this traditional flavor comes with a warning. Color has its natural place on the dinner table, but also of special significance in the Jamaican culture for decades, be it on the rocks or as a compliment. It's that crystal clear head turner that continues to spike sales at certain times of the year. It's in this original JCDC winner that keeps the memories of its conceptualizer alive.
My mom came up with this rum cream pie, which is made with the Ray and Nephew rum. And it's rum, cream, sugar. We add a little vanilla and cinnamon and some gelatin. And it's not a baked rum. It's actually something that you make and then freeze and it gels. The recipe's there, but the technique is always harder for everyone to make it. So it is very strong. A lot of people can only have one small bite if they're not used to drinking. But that's how the pie was made. My mom came up with that recipe and she mastered it and passed it on to me. And so far, I'm the only one in the family who has mastered the recipe. So we use this during Thanksgiving, family get-together, Christmas, along with the other Jamaican, cakes and stuff. But this is now the family favorite, the rum cream pie. So I like to prep everything prior to making the mix, because once I start making this pie, and as soon as I'm finished with the cream, everything has to be mixed and put in the pie shell and put in the fridge.
Of all the ingredients, even outside Jamaica, the bragging rights for the white overproof stands.
Other rum, and it's not as good.
And the process is easy, would you think?
Process shouldn't take more than 20 to 25 minutes. You make your cream and you make your egg batter. And then you mix them together. So it doesn't take long to make. It just, the cream has to be at a certain peak and the rest of the ingredients has to be put in at a certain time. Everyone wants a piece of the pie.
And we'll have news from overseas and lots more when we come back.
is popcorn chicken. Now available in barbecue. KFC, it's finger-licking good. The time by KFC is 7:30.
This is a public service announcement. Yo, JPS have something for light up your Christmas. 101 lucky customers are gonna get real happy with them light bill paid this Christmas. That's over $2 million in light. Use the My JPS app to view your bill, set your budget, and track your usage, and you could win. Download and start using the My JPS app today. JPS, pouring what matters this Christmas. Promotion in December 27. Conditions apply.
During the big Brother Christmas Sports Ready Cash will give to you 10 hams for baking, 9 party tickets, 8 phones are ringing, 7 air fryers, 6 cash backs, 5 shopping sprees, 4 smart TVs, 3 100 grand, 2 200 grand, and a big check for 500 G.
Take a Quartz Ready Cash loan of $55,000 or more between now and December 26th for a chance to win one of 55 amazing prizes. Authorized under Section 58.3 of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act. Quartz Ready Cash, ready when you are. Conditions apply.
And we now go to our business report.
Lots to share with you in the business report today. 75 years into its charge towards meeting the energy storage needs of the Jamaican market and beyond, Tropical Battery Limited continues to set new benchmarks of performance and innovation. The BR was able to connect with CEO Alexander Melville, who charted the rapid growth that the company has experienced since listing on the junior market of the JSE in September of 2020, driven by their strategic investment and acquisition of key assets, including Rose Batteries, a California-based battery manufacturing company that was established in 1963 and serves 16 industries and over 200 customers in 30 countries across 7 continents, with dual manufacturing facilities in both the United States and Mexico.
I went there several times, kind of kicked the tires and went through and they were doing a bidding process of 4 other companies, 4 or 5 other companies were also bidding on Rose. And so that it was very robust due diligence, and we were, I would say, lucky to have, acquired this business. There was one other higher bid than us, and even that higher bidder than us, when they found out that they did not win the bid, they tried to buy the business back from Tropical, months later at an even higher price. So I felt very comfortable that we made the right decision. Giving multiple bidders, and obviously now having it for 8 months, it certainly has proven, as you can see with our 100% revenue growth and higher profitability, it's been a good decision.
Tropical Battery has delivered a strong financial performance since IPO, from 1.9 billion Jamaican dollars in revenue in 2020 to 5.6 billion Jamaican dollars by 2024. This remarkable growth reflects the success of the company's strategic initiatives, including a strengthened focus on renewable energy, highlighted by the company investing in 51